Welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. I'm your host, Austin Becker, and this is your home for adventure, travel, addiction, recovery, the outdoor and ski industry, and of course, redemption. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. This week, we have an awesome guest, Benni Harrington. He's a halfpipe Olympic skier from New Zealand. I recently connected with him through kind of a mutual friend and decided that I thought he would be an awesome guest to have on the podcast. So thanks for hopping on, Benni. I'll give you the opportunity to, kind of tell a little bit about yourself and how you ended up on the podcast today.
Word. Thank you very much, Austin. What's up? I'm Benni Harrington. I'm a 22-year-old professional skier from Wanaka, New Zealand. Austin and I got to link up from a very good friend of mine and his, Dano Bruno. Dano, big shout out to you. Always dials in my boots and gets me really set up.
Yeah.
And I got to ski with Austin for a day and we hit it off really well. And I decided to link up and make a podcast.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you get into pipe skiing? New Zealand, it doesn't seem like a huge scene in terms of, park skiing. It might be bigger than what I perceive. Where did you decide that freestyle skiing was what you were going to put your everything towards?
Yeah, so basically I started skiing at a really young age. My dad was on the World Cup Mogul Tour and was on the U.S. team for a couple years way back in the day, and so I've kind of had skiing in my blood ever since I was born. And coming from New Zealand, actually, we have a really big park and pipe scene. We have, it was kind of founded by the Wells brothers, Jossie, Byron, Bo, and Jackson. They're a family out of Wanaka, which is my hometown. And all four of them went to the Olympics. They all have World Cup medals and X Games medals and stuff. And so, we've got a huge park and pipe scene. I really just started loving doing half pipe and slope style. I always competed in both park and pipe for the longest time. And then later on in my career, I decided to almost specialize in half pipe just on the competing side. I still love skiing slope style. I still ski a bunch of big mountain as well, but I just kind of decided to tap into the half pipe side a little bit more, and it's taken me to where I am today.
Awesome. At what age did you realize you're at that level that you could take it, all the way?
Probably when I was I'd want to say 16, 17. I got fourth at the Junior World Championships in half pipe, and this was after I'd basically spent the entire season focusing on slope style. And I was like, damn, if I maybe spend a little bit more time in half pipe, I'll be able to lock in and be able to hopefully make it to the top at some point. And so ever since then, I've definitely focused more on half pipe skiing. But I've always wanted to be a professional skier ever since I was a little grom. I would always watch the movies. I'd watch YouTube series. I'd watch everything. And I just always thought it was so cool to be able to travel the world, go to these amazing places, and essentially be a professional skier.
Yeah. You're living out the dream, man.
Yeah.
You've been on some crazy adventures this winter, it seems like. Last I spoke to you, you were in Montana and then Switzerland. Have you been training mostly, or are you filming this season?
Yeah, this season was definitely a mixed bag. Right off the get-go, I started my season out. I spent a month out in Europe doing a bunch of training and coaching. Straight from there, I went to China for a World Cup and ended up rocking my dome and smoking my head and had to pull out of that World Cup, which was definitely tough. And then kind of just got plagued a little bit by injuries. I did well in the North America Cup circuit, but when it came to World Cups, I bruised my heels right before the last two World Cups and had to pull out of those two. So missed the majority of the World Cup tour, which was definitely tough for me, but that's just part of skiing and part of life. I definitely have done a little bit of filming this year, not as much as I'd like to, because filming to me is one of my favorite parts of skiing. I was out in Montana with the Mountain in My Mind crew, produced by John Padilla, who's a really good friend of mine as well. So got to tap in with him and do some backcountry skiing, which was really nice. Went out to Switzerland for a little coaching slash skiing gig, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, coached a kid out there and then ended up staying on and skiing a whole bunch, which was really cool. Just recently flew out here, drove out here to California, did a couple days of filming with another friend of mine, Aaron Durlester, and his movie The Variance Crew, which is going to be coming out this fall, so watch out for that. And now I'm here doing a halfpipe camp.
Sweet. How long are you going to be in Mammoth for training?
I'm going to be here for another 2 weeks.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Last pipe probably in the world, as we were talking about, before the podcast. It seems from conversations with you and with Dano as well that finding a really good pipe these days can be a tough game.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you? Has there been a shift in, multiple resorts always having an awesome 22-foot pipe to now, like, what resorts here in Colorado even still have the true 22-foot walls?
Yeah, it's definitely become tough in the past couple of years. I mean, everyone back in the day, every resort either had a 18-foot or a 22-foot half pipe, which is really rad. Definitely over the past couple of years, we've lost a lot, including Park City used to have a really good one. Snowmass used to have one. But at the moment, Copper and Buttermilk are the two that really keep it going. It's definitely become tough to be able to train and to compete and stuff because obviously what we're doing, you need to have like perfect shape, perfect vert, perfect everything so you don't end up on the deck or end up in the flat bottom and getting yourself hurt. And that's really tough. But I mean, Copper and Aspen, they do a great job, and I'm really thankful for them and everything they do for half-pipe skiing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite pipe in New Zealand? Is there a specific resort or pipe that you love to train at?
Yeah, Cadrona Alpine Resort, they're the best for sure. They care so much about park and pipe skiing. It's really cool. They always put a bunch of money and they try to get their park up as quickly as they can, which is I really support. And it's really good for me and the rest of the New Zealand team to be able to get into that and be able to train. And we have airbags and other good training facilities down there. So big shout out to them. I definitely would not be where I am today without Cadrona, and I'm sure the rest of the New Zealand crew would say that as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. When do you head back to New Zealand to start training?
I'll be back I fly August 1st back home to New Zealand.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So at least you'll get a little break, maybe.
Exactly, yeah.
From
I'll get a bit of sunshine between now and when I go back into New Zealand. June and July is kind of my summertime.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I saw you're doing the gibberish camp at Woodward.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's that looking like this year? Who's coming out?
Yeah, so Gibberish has been a sponsor for the Woodward Copper Summer Camp. They do 1 week every year for the past 2 years, and honestly, not coming out of my mouth, but everyone's always said that Gibberish is the best week at Woodward Copper. So if you guys are trying to come out and ride with a bunch of the best pros in the world, come out. I think it's week 8, July 21st. So I'm going to be out there. A bunch of other homies are going to be out there. And yeah, really can't thank Gibberish enough for everything they do for me. They've supported me and my ideas, which is really amazing. And it's an honor to be part of that company. I've looked up to the skiers that have been on the company forever. Wallish, Harlow, Hornbeck, they were some of my favorite skiers back in the day. And to be able to wear the Gibberish and wear it proudly is a dream come true now.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. I've grown up, and I'm sure you did, in that gibberish world.
Yep. DeLorme and Sean Jordan.
Yeah.
Clayton Villa. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Sean Jordan. What a legend. Man, do I miss step production movies.
Oh my God. Yeah, me too. Mutiny is still to this day my favorite movie.
Yeah. I still listen to the soundtrack from that movie. It's like nostalgic.
Nice.
If I'm really trying to get in the mode, I'll throw in a couple songs from Mutiny, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to rip. Let's do this.
Nice, sick. That's super rad.
So you mentioned injury. We talk about this on the podcast a lot. I had a real gnarly injury that really changed my skiing forever. I know you were dealing with those heel issues, and you're working with Dano to get like insoles and stuff.
Yeah.
What sort of impact has that had on you outside of skiing alone being difficult and painful? Have you had impacts where you're feeling stressed out or struggling with mental health stuff because you can't get out and ride and you feel like you're falling behind in some capacity? What has that been like for you?
Yeah, 100%. I actually listened to a podcast earlier with Colby Stevenson who talked about what injury feels like to him, and the way he describes it, which I think couldn't be described any more perfect, is that it feels like your world is stopped still, because obviously my world is skiing, and the rest of the world carries on. So everyone else gets to ski and everyone else gets to train and compete except you, and you have to sit there and you have to watch. And it's definitely been a huge struggle. My first real major injury was in 2018. I ruptured my ACL, MCL, and that's a very common injury for skiers and stuff. So that was 9 months off. It was really tough for me. I had to watch my brother go over for Succeed. High school girlfriend broke up with me same time, so I went through the ringer. It was definitely super tough. But since it's also taught me a lot and taught me really how to deal with injuries and stuff. And so ever since then, I've kind of had more of like, okay, this injury sucks. It's not the end of the world. I'm still alive. I'm still healthy. Like, I'm going to get back to skiing. Like, it's going to, like, the bruised heels was really, really frustrating because I, like, could do everything else. I could walk, I could bike, I could do everything except it was when my feet were in a ski boot and I was landing jumps and in the half pipe is when it was hurt. So that was really frustrating for me, and there's no physio or no special treatment or anything that's going to be able to fix bruise heels. So that was really frustrating for me, but again, it's not the end of the world. I'm still healthy. I'm still breathing. I still get to call my mom at the end of the day, and she reminds me that all the time, that I'm still healthy. I'm still lucky to be here. And it's definitely a big struggle, though. I've had to deal with it. That's definitely caused a lot of my mental health issues, is that injuries obviously come up and they're heartbreaking, and like I said before, it feels like your world stopped. And yeah, it's definitely shaped me into the person I am today, though.
Yeah, I understand that sentiment completely. Watching from the sidelines is it's almost like nauseating.
100%.
And, I'm sure you felt this. You're like a younger dude on the circuit, and watching, Alex Ferreira is like going out of control.
Yeah.
He is like going out of control in the pipe, and as a competitor like yourself, watching from the sidelines where you're like, oh man, I wish I could try that trick or do these things. I can't imagine like what's going through your head when stuff like that happens. Because there's nothing you can do to control it. It's like, I can't ski, and the world is moving on without me, and that is a hollow feeling as an athlete.
Yeah, it's definitely really tough. First of all, big shout out to Al. Al's killing it. He's an amazing skier. Definitely a big inspiration to me. But it is definitely tough, especially when all of my best friends and my entire world is wrapped up in this little ski world, and all of a sudden it's like I've been plucked out and I just can't do anything. And it's out of my power, it's out of my control. But Al's actually been a really big mentor to me, and he's taught me a lot of things recently. And like, when I do get hurt, yes, it sucks, but I'm going to do everything in my power to get healed, get recovered, get back to skiing and back to where I was before.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I tip my cap to you keeping your head up. It's definitely not an easy feeling or thing to deal with. In terms of half pipe skiing, what do you feel like? What's your biggest success? Like, the first thing that comes to your head, is there a trick or a moment that was the most important thing that's happened to you in your career?
Definitely representing New Zealand at the Olympics was really cool. That was it was definitely a goal for me, but almost bigger than that was going to X Games, because X Games was something I grew up watching. It was everyone I ever idolized went to X Games. It was always the coolest event, had the most crowd, most publicity. I always thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And so when I got that X Games invite, it was like, it felt like I'd won the lottery, essentially. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this is everything I've ever dreamed of.
Yeah, that I can't imagine, man, getting called up to the big stage.
Yeah.
What was Olympics like? I feel like Olympics for a lot of people, it's like the big thing. We all see it on NBC, and it's this incredible event. And you never really see like what the experience is like on the back end. Was it everything you had hoped and dreamed?
Yeah, yes and no. It was like, first of all, I went to the 2022 Winter Olympics, which was in the middle of COVID, so it was definitely still pretty tough for us. Secondly, when I got to the Olympics, the only thing I was focused on and cared about was doing well. I wasn't there to socialize. I wasn't there to meet other people. I was there because I wanted to ski the absolute best I possibly could. It is definitely a really amazing experience, and I get to tell my kids that I'm an Olympian for the rest of my life, and so I'm very proud of that. It definitely felt like I always thought in my ski career, once I made the Olympics or once I did this, like this light would come down, and I'd feel amazing, and it was all great. But at the end of the day, that's not what happened. I didn't ski the best I would have liked to. Took a big crash and scared a lot of my friends and family. And yeah, it definitely caused what a lot of people call an Olympic hangover, which a lot of athletes deal with, which is basically you work your ass off for 4 years to get to this big goal. You achieve this goal, and now it's kind of like, what am I doing now? Like, I spent the past 4 years of my life trying to get to this goal. I achieved the goal. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, and now I'm here.
Yeah, that's that's something I don't think a lot of people will ever truly understand. Uh, is 2026 your next big goal coming out to the 2026 games?
Yeah, I'd like to say so, but at the same time, I always just try to take it one season at a time. And the only thing in my power and I'm able to do is just ski the best I can. And
Yeah.
so if it comes to the case where I ski the best I can and I don't make the Olympics, then that's out of my control and there's nothing I can do about it. If I make the Olympics, and that's amazing, and I'm hungry for redemption, so I'm definitely trying to make that next 2026 Olympics. But at the end of the day, I'm just skiing. I'm just having fun. I'm just trying to represent my family, myself, my country, and just ski the best I can.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Um, so kind of off the topic of Olympics and talking more about, you mentioned the film Mountain on My Mind with John Padilla and going out there and filming. What has that experience been like? I'm like, my whole brand and everything that I do is like pushing essentially that narrative that John is trying to push, is that
Yeah.
skiing goes so far beyond just the sport. Like, skiers are human beings, and like people still deal with stuff. So what has that experience been like, pushing that deeper message?
Yeah, 100%. I put out a post, and I think it was probably December of 2022 after a contest, and it was like just after I fell both rounds, I was really bummed and upset, and then I like took some time to myself and really thought about it, and I was like, skiing is so tough, but I'm like, there's so much more to life, and like way more of a person. It was definitely more of like an in-depth and like more like meaningful post, and like something that I haven't really tapped into much before. And John actually saw the post. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, like I make a movie on mental health within skiing. Like, I'd love for you to be a part of it." So he's had a couple really amazing skiers. He had Bobby Sullivan, who's one of my favorite skiers and people who had to deal with a lot of drug substances abuse, and he's come out and become an amazing person. He lost his brother to suicide a couple years ago, and so that was obviously really tough for him. Basically, though, the whole mountain in my mind is to break the stigma of everyone in skiing thinking that's too cool to talk about mental health or mental illnesses and stuff, because we're skiers. We slam off rocks, slam into half pipes, slam in rails. Like, we're meant to be tough. Like, and yes, like we are tough, and like it's all a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, we're still human, and we still have to deal with human problems, and we still have to deal with mental health issues and stuff. So John gave me the opportunity to fly out to Montana and ski a bunch of backcountry with him, which was the first time I'd ever done that. It was an absolute blast, but also he gave me the
Awesome.
opportunity to talk about my story, talk about more of who I am as more than just Benny the skier, more as Benny the person, and then the struggles I've had to deal with in my life.
Yeah. Where out in Montana were you guys filming?
We filmed in Cook City, Montana. Give me a second. I'm just gonna shut this door.
The poop.
Sorry, there was a bird chirping.
No problem.
We filmed out in a place called Cook City, Montana. I think it's got maybe a population of 20 people that actually live there full time. And it's super rad. It's a 3 hour drive from Bozeman. Tiny, tiny little town, one gas station, one bar, no supermarket, so we have to haul in all of our food. You have to sled everywhere you go. Don't drive cars. Like it's definitely an amazing experience, and it was so cool to be out there.
Yeah. So were you guys out building jumps? Were you charging lines? A mix of everything? What was the approach out there?
Yeah, this year definitely. It was very short for me because I had to fly to Europe the next day. So, I felt like last year my segment was good, but I had a lot left on the table that I could have done. And so this year I came and I told John, I was like, dude, I'm hungry to get clips. So we built a bunch of jumps. I skied a couple lines, hit some pillows and stuff, and yeah, it was just amazing overall experience.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm jealous.
It was a
I'm
lot of
gonna
fun.
I'm gonna have to put Cook City on the list now.
Yes, it's definitely a place to visit for sure.
Where in Europe did you go out to ski?
We were in Korvach, which is St. Moritz, Silvaplana, Switzerland.
Okay. Were
Yeah.
you out there filming or training?
No, I was out there coaching for a week, and then I stayed on and did 2 weeks of training out there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is also a bucket list place for me. I've been the past few years like chipping away at like big bucket list ski objectives. This year
Nice. And
was
you haven't made it
Alaska.
to New Zealand yet?
No, I've got to.
Yeah,
I've
that
got to.
that should be high up on the bucket list.
All right. Yeah, you'll have to show me around.
100%.
I yeah, we got out to Alaska this year with an awesome crew and filmed and skied, and that was like that. I feel like changed my outlook on life.
That was like being in Montana. It was the craziest experience ever.
Yeah, it's big mountain skiing is like it's such a different approach. I've talked with other people on the podcast where like Alex Schlope was explaining like before he dropped in for the big air when he won in 2011, that feeling that he had dropping in, he has like recreated that feeling standing on top of like massive couloirs and skiing backcountry and heli skiing. It's like
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game, but it gives you that like rush that's I don't know how to
100,
explain it.
100. That was like me. I like landed this trick that I've really been thinking about doing in the backcountry. And like the feeling of landing it after crashing it 3 times before is like the same feeling I get when I land a run that I'm really proud of and put a lot of work and effort into.
Yeah. And it's been cool watching, I think, a lot of people that are skiing in the park scene, whether it's competing in slope style, pipe, whatever, taking those same attributes now into the like big mountain and backcountry. I think for a long time we saw in films like the guys that were competing in X Games, they would go into the backcountry and build these like massive booters,
Yeah.
and you're seeing this like whole flow now. Like I saw Colby Stevenson won like line of the year with GoPro, and
Yeah.
that is like he can go win a slope style event, but then ski a line like that,
Yeah.
and it's wild, man. That
It's
guy
definitely
is
it's definitely crazy. Kobe's very talented and very amazing skier.
yeah, and he seems like a cool guy.
Super nice
Um,
guy.
yeah, my I'll never forget this. I got a call. This was maybe 6 months after I broke my back, and close friend of mine, John Michael Fabrizi, that I grew up with in Big Bear and skiing with, calls me and he's like, dude, I was just in this crazy accident and I was with Colby, and
Wow.
he was in the car with Colby, and he was basically scotch-free when, Colby nearly died.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
And 6 months before that, he watched me break my neck and back and
Oh.
go through all of that. So this guy was like watching all this crazy stuff happen, but I'll never forget that moment, like thinking, oh man, he's never going to be the same.
Yeah, everyone said that, and then within 7 months, he won a World Cup. First ever World Cup win. So crazy.
Wild. Yeah. And I think that also speaks to the power of, like, yeah, we, like, skiers in general, we're not made of rubber. Like,
No.
people get hurt. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the mental health and things that came after that for Colby, and especially with brain injuries like that, people, like, have mental changes. And so I think it's really easy for people to look at, a situation like that and being like, oh yeah, he got in a terrible car accident, but he came back and won, like he's totally fine. And
yeah, but think about everything he's had to go. He had to relearn to walk. He had to relearn to bike. He had to relearn to ski and live his life, essentially.
Yeah. And yeah, that's been a crazy, crazy story unfolding. I know it was like they wouldn't stop talking about it in the Olympics. And it was like, every break was like U.S. American skier Colby Stevenson with an exclusive interview, and like all power to it. And I feel like that was one of the first times where the world actually got to see, to an extent, like what a skier can go through.
Exactly. 100%.
And as someone that didn't, outsiders in my circle that didn't really know who Colby was, and they're watching the Olympics, they're like, oh man, we've heard the story 15 times. But I'm like standing on the other side of the room like, this is awesome.
This is a story worth listening to 15 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, you basically ski year round, so you don't really have that slow period. You mentioned June and July, and you also mentioned that, in the Mountain in My Mind film, like who Benni is. And I guess in a snapshot, like who are you outside of skiing? What makes Benni tick?
Just a guy that loves skiing and being outdoors, honestly, more than anything. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely gone through my fair share of problems in life, and that's something that I really try to portray in the movie and stuff. Is that like everyone has issues. Yeah, no matter who you are, you could be Justin Bieber, or you could be me, or you could be Colby Stevenson. Everyone goes through trauma, and everyone has to deal with stuff. And so the big thing I want to portray in the movie this year was that I am always just one DM away or one text message away or anything. And I really want to be open to people that are struggling, that need help or just need to talk to anyone. And like, I don't exactly know what I'm saying all the time, but I can talk to you about my story and talk to you about the struggles I've gone through and help you feel that everything's going to be all right at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's everything that we're trying to do. That's why this podcast was started.
Yeah.
Is to bring people like you on. I think it is, in this world that we live in, people look at athletes or models or actors or these people as these like unattainable beings.
Yeah. And that was me as a kid. I always thought that all these skiers were just like, they were superheroes to me. They didn't seem like someone I could talk to. They didn't seem like a normal person. I was like, oh, these guys just get to travel the world and party and ski and get paid to do all of it. But like, I just watching films and YouTube videos and then later on Instagram and stuff, like I didn't see the injuries. I didn't see the setbacks. I didn't see the heartbreak and everything else that they've had to deal with. Like,
yeah.
So I like, at the end of the day, we're all human and like we all still have to deal with problems no matter who we are.
Yeah. And I think portraying that message to people, and I love the way that you said it, that you are obtainable. Like, send me a DM, send me a message. We've seen that happen with this podcast where people all over the world have like reached out to us, and I've mentioned this before. There's like a kid in France that just broke his back and neck skiing and was like reaching out to me asking questions about like, what did you do in your recovery? And like,
yeah, that's awesome.
My first obvious answer was like, get off the Oxycontin, like, immediately. get off that quickly. But it had like, I think that is an important thing for people to realize, is that you may think that just because someone's in the Olympics or they're in the movies or they're a model, whatever, that they're like completely unobtainable.
Yeah.
They were born the exact same way as you.
Exactly.
They just happened to be born into this certain circle and took a certain life path, but they're literally humans. Like, they have the exact same thoughts as you.
100%.
They're stressed about whatever.
And that's something I always wished I had growing up. Like, I always wished that there was a pro skier who I felt like I could talk to, or I felt that was like my older brother, essentially. Like, I coach a lot of kids these days, and for me, like, looking back at him, like, I wish I was 15 years old and I had a 22-year-old Olympian hanging out with me, or giving me tips, or telling me that everything's going to be okay, or telling me that, yo, like, if you have any problems with any, whether it's girls, whether it's skiing, whether it's school, like anything, like, you're more than welcome to send me a text. Like, I'm happy to help you and stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Keeping that open level of communication is extraordinarily important. So, outside of skiing, what other sports do you get into? You mentioned biking.
Yeah.
I know skiing is your focus 10 months out of the year, but what do you do when you're not skiing?
Yeah, when I'm not skiing, I try to surf as much as possible, which is really hard when you're a winter sports athlete and you're in the mountains most of the time. So it's definitely tough, but surfing to me has been a really big part of who I am recently. It's almost like meditation for me, being out on the water. So love surfing as much as possible. Definitely try to get out there as much. And then got super into road biking and mountain biking recently with my mom. She rips, and it's really good to be able to keep up with her and stuff. And then I like spending a lot of time in the gym, just making sure I'm strong physically and being able to take big hits and stuff.
Yeah. I remember we were chatting on the chairlift that, like, when you're here in Colorado, it seems like you spend a lot of time at the Woodward Center. That's your go-to spot. You finish skiing and you're out there ripping and roaring, making sure the body's in tip-top shape.
100%. That was actually a big thanks to Alex about that. He was the one that really got me into Woodward and got me on the rollerblades and taught me a bunch of stuff. And without him, I definitely wouldn't be doing it as much. But yeah, Woodward has been a huge part of my career so far. I spend so much time in the barn, getting my tricks dialed, getting everything dialed, and yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. So if you were to give, you're a young gun in the scene yourself, what are the things you tell a 15-year-old when you're training with them? Like, if you could give one piece of advice to someone, like, you're at a Woodward camp and you see this kid and he's ripping, and you might even have the thought, like, this kid could make it. Like, what do you tell a kid like that?
A couple things. It's just skiing. It's not that deep. Don't stress too hard about it. The other thing is focus on skiing, and everything else comes along with it. And then thirdly is it all works out at the end of the day. So although things might look dark and times are tough right now, like, it'll all work itself out, and at the end of the day, you'll be happy and smiling.
Amazing. I think I need to take that advice.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get wrapped up in it. Like, I do it too all the time. I'm stressed about this, or I'm stressed about that, and then I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it's gonna work itself out. It might not work out the way I planned it to or how I expected it to, but I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna be able to smile at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So, your folks are still in New Zealand? Is that they live in New Zealand full time?
They live in New Zealand full time.
And do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yep, I've got a younger brother. He's 20. His name's Luca Harrington. He's also a professional skier.
Nice.
He competes in slopestyle and big air while I compete in half pipe, which is really nice to have someone like that because we're not obviously competing directly against each other, but at the end of the day, we're still very competitive and we still push each other and we still try help each other to be the best that we possibly can be.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's weird. I grew up in a family and competing and skiing and everything, and there's like no skiers in my family.
Really?
My uncle he taught me how to ski. Actually, I grew up skiing in Mammoth.
Nice.
My uncle lived in Mammoth. I grew up in Big Bear, and those were like my training grounds.
Sick.
Spent a lot of time in Mammoth. But that was something that I always looked up to as well. And you were mentioning that I was like looking for that role model figure.
Yeah.
And that's cool that, you're similar enough in age, but you're still an older brother.
Yeah.
That you can share that advice to your brother. And I'm sure he finds and learns tons of different things too that he passes on to you. So having that connection
100%. Yeah.
That's special, man. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of athletes get to experience that.
Yeah. It's definitely really rad. He teaches me a lot, and I'd like to say that I taught him a lot as well. But it's really cool that we get to bounce ideas off each other and just be there for each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think there's like another. Trying to think, maybe the Plumlee brothers that played at Duke. But now maybe LeBron and his son are going to be playing together. Today. That could be crazy.
That could be wild.
But yeah, I think for a lot of athletes, it can feel like a lonely place.
Yeah.
Where you're in this like upper echelon, you're an Olympic athlete. That's a very small group. And there's very few people that like truly understand what it is to be an Olympic athlete. And, I can't imagine that feeling. And I'm sure that having those mentors like Alex or working with your brother is extraordinarily helpful.
100%.
I was talking with somebody recently how somebody was saying like, man, it feels so unobtainable, like talking with really wealthy people. And I got into the conversation more. It was with a friend of mine, and I thought about it more, and I think why like wealthy people jive with wealthy people, like that 1%.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs hangs out with, not anymore, but you know what I mean? Like Steve Jobs would hang out with
Jeff Bezos
or whatever, because they understand each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Very few people that understand that. So
it's
cool that you've built that community and have that support around you.
It's definitely really good.
Yeah. And what is it like not really having a home base in a sense? Like you're constantly on the road. Does it feel unsettling at all? Like, you are in Colorado for a little bit, but then you travel and travel and travel and travel. Does that ever start to feel unsettling? Like you want to just sit down and chill for a little bit? Or do you lean into the travel and love it?
Yeah, it definitely can be tough at times. Big shout out to anyone that's ever let me sleep on the couch. I really appreciate all you guys. But at the end of the day, I got to remind myself, I'm like, this is everything I wanted to do when I was a kid. I would always, when I was in high school and I was stuck in school, I always saw everyone traveling and competing and skiing and stuff. And I was like, damn, that'd be so cool to do. And now I'm living the life that I wanted to live ever since I was a little kid. So I really can't complain. It is nice to come home and have your own space and stuff, but living out of a suitcase, being able to travel the world also doesn't suck as well.
Yeah. This winter I was on the road for like I didn't step foot in my house for almost 3 months.
Yeah, that's like me. I say I live in Colorado now, but I'm only there from December to the end of April, and out of those 5 months, I'm gone for probably 3 of them.
Yeah. Constantly on the road. And people would ask me, like, does that feel unsettling? Like, don't you want to get home and, like, hang out with your cat or something, or, like, see your friends? And yeah, there was something in the back of my mind, especially this winter, where I was like, go, 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 next place to the next place, and just chasing snow everywhere. There was something in the back of my mind that was telling me, like, oh man, it would be nice to, like, sit down on my couch and sit back and chill. But then the other thought is, this is fucking incredible, man. Like,
this is everything I've ever dreamed of.
Yeah, I'm going to places and seeing things that I could only dream, as a person to do someday, let alone doing it with skis on my feet. That has been equally as incredible. And I've always said since I was a kid, it was like drilled into me. My parents are like big world travelers, and my grandfather was a big world traveler. Like, I only want to make enough money to travel. Like, that's all I need in life. I just want to go to a new place and learn about the culture and learn about the people. It's a special thing. And
100%.
As much as it feels like it can be stressful at times, like not having that home base.
Yeah.
It's pretty the other side of it is pretty freaking incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely really rad.
Yeah. So, Benny, I always give people kind of towards the end of the podcast an opportunity to, we call it burning desires in recovery rooms and stuff, but is there anything you want to share with the audience, anything that you want to get out there before we end things here?
First of all, big thank you to my mom and dad. Yeah. I wouldn't be anywhere without them. They are the backbone of me and my brother, and they're the reason why we're here, and I can't thank them enough. Thank you to my brother for everything he does for me. Thank you to all my friends, family, sponsors, Monster, Vocal, Gibberish, Zipline. You guys make the stream come true, and I can't thank you enough. And like I said earlier in the podcast, if anyone's struggling with mental health issues or has any questions, you want to learn how to do a backflip, or you need to talk about something, like, I'm just one DM away. Like, I'm happy to help, and I really want to make sure you're happy and watch everyone else succeed. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I know you're a busy guy and traveling and skiing, and I hope your essentially never-ending winter is incredible, man. Yeah. Enjoy your time in Mammoth.
Thank you. And big thank you to you for having me on the podcast and letting me share my story and talk a little bit about myself.
Yeah, you got it, man. This is why we do this. This
awesome.
Is like the whole reason we put in the work to make this happen is we want to showcase people's stories and show the world what it doesn't even have to be a skier, that everyone is human.
Yeah.
And we all deal with things, and I think we're starting to move the needle in the right direction in a lot of ways, and I think social media and like modern technology has made that easier for people to like
100%
share their stories and be less guarded around these issues that maybe 50 years ago would have looked like you were weak.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
No problem.
And enjoy the rest of your season, and we'll maybe get a day in here towards the end of the season and reconnect, man.
Super down. Thank you so much for having me again, Austin. Really appreciate everything.
You got it, brother.